Saludos programas and welcome. We are the BC Wrestle Pod, and we are here to bring you even our Money in the Bank review for this 2024 Money in the Bank. And some stuff happened. If you either have been living under a wrestling rock or haven't been paying attention to the wrestling internets today, stuff happened. But first, I would like to get a little, as we call housekeeping, out of the way. So please, if you like this show, come and check out the rest of the BC Wrestle Pod. We have shows for pretty much every major promotion that happens throughout the week. We have AEW shows, ROH shows. We have we're starting to get into the GCW shows. Our new CMLL reviews are there as well. So check us out. You can check us out on Next Level as well. Over at look for us at BC WrestlePod. And if you like what you're seeing and you want to support us, then by all means, please join our Patreon. We got a lot of fun stuff going on there. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get to what we are here for, and that is some 2024 Money in the Bank action. And with me, I would like to first introduce El Jefe Mikey.
Hi everyone. So I'm excited to talk about Money in the Bank. A lot of things went down. Some good things, some questionable things, and I'm excited to talk about it. So this is going to be an interesting one.
And when it comes to the BC Wrestle Pod, wherever there is the WWE, we have to have the knowledge. The one who has the thinky bits, and that is John, the Professor.
Oh, you're too kind. I'm honored to be the thinky bits party. That's not normally the case. As always with the PLEs for WWE, the internet is polarized no matter what. It's just a reactionary, I hate it, I love it, I this thing, I that thing, can you believe thing. And granted, a little bit of criticism is great. It gets us to dialogue and talk about things because we love this stuff. But I think some folks are going way out of proportion on this one for whatever reason. And I shouldn't be surprised because the internet doesn't surprise me anymore. At this point, I'm just confused. Like, why? If you don't like it, don't watch it. Like, what are you doing?
and we're gonna get into all that. I am Adolfo, the Nerdy Puerto Rican. And I am acting as the moderator because spoilers, I didn't watch the Money in the Bank. So these two gentlemen are gonna fully fill me in, and let's see if I go back and watch it or not. So, but coming right out of the gun, I'm going to get this out of the way. John Cena has announced his retirement, which will culminate at the 2025 WrestleMania. Gentlemen, Mikey, John, I'm going to give you 1 minute, and I would like to hear your thoughts on John Cena's retirement announcement. Let's start with you, Mikey. Go ahead.
So since we're confined to a minute, I'll just keep this really brief. I was not expecting this is where he would announce his retirement, but given where John Cena has been the last 2-3 years, and I kind of figure it was time for him to hang it up soon, especially after that match with Austin Theory at WrestleMania 2 years ago when it was in Hollywood. He's like 16 a 16 plus year career in the ring. I love John Cena. He is like one of the few last in the era of those 2000s wrestlers that's still working. The only other one is Randy Orton. And I hope his final match will be him versus Randy or him versus AJ. I think those should be his final opponents.
All right, there we go. John, what are your thoughts? John Cena retiring.
Two quick thoughts. One, I think this is sort of the blueprint for the modern wrestler now that we're probably going to see this more and more of the folks that have the 10-year, 15-year, 20-year careers. Hey, I'm retiring. Here's my farewell tour. Because a lot of wrestlers are getting into streaming. They're getting into films. They're getting the acting work more than they ever have. And if you can get paid money to not put your body through what you're putting it through, take it. You could do it with grace, like he's kind of sort of doing. I don't mind the announcement. That's kind of his big thing, is showing up and making announcements. So I love that for John Cena. Outside of wrestling, I think John Cena's testament to the profession is going to be, how do you act outside of the ring? What do you do for your communities? He still has the record for most wishes from the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is some ridiculous number. The community service stuff, everyone does community and philanthropy and whatever else, but on the scale of John Cena, he's the first to do it that way. And of course, everyone gives back and does what they do. But when you look at John Cena doing it, it's like, oh my God, he is his own industry of giving back to children and the community itself.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
I think that's, yes, 16-time champion. Yes, 16 or 18-time champion. Like, you could argue from 2000 to 2010, he held it on his back. Absolutely did. But outside of the ring, I think is just as impressive.
All right. So there we go. Yeah. John Cena announced his retirement, which will be culminating at WrestleMania 41. Right? 41. So moving on, wanted to get that right out of the way. But moving on, our first match tonight was the men's Money in the Bank, where we saw Jey Uso, Chad Gable, Drew McIntyre, Andrade, Carmelo Hayes, and LA Knight going at it for that briefcase hanging over the ring. So, gentlemen, what were your thoughts? And was this outcome already known before Drew got the suitcase? Let's start with you, John.
Was the outcome known? We made our picks a week before here, and I picked with my heart, which always fails me, for this one in particular. But as we got to SmackDown, as the rest of the week progressed, it was like, oh, I bet it's gonna be Drew. But everyone, I feel like, who knew that kind of did that with that weird question mark ellipse thing. It was like, is it gonna be really? Is that what we're? Because there was so many other, alleyways and avenues that you could have taken. So, was it a for sure thing? No, I think it was gray enough. Of course, there's going to be some of those fans who are like, it was Drew, and they just felt that way the entire time, and they're gonna. This is the self-fulfilling prophecy. But I don't always trust WWE to do the right thing and or what their storyline dictates. So I'm always on my toes as far as that goes.
Right.
The first, I'll say this, and then Mikey, please jump in. After the first, I don't know, half of this, it kind of felt like this is going to Drew.
I think what ended up happening here is the reverse of what we'll get into when we talk about the women's Money in the Bank. Sure. All the men did like all their spots, like the first 50% of the match. And then towards like the last 5 minutes, we had our top three contenders, which was Chad and Jay and Drew, and everyone was just doing everything. Honestly, for me, Andrade kind of was my MVP this match, surprisingly. I think Andrade did a lot of the heavy lifting, doing that crazy Spanish fly with Carmelo Hayes off the second rope into a ladder, just jumping all over the place. We talked about this on the SmackDown review. I'm hoping now that Money in the Bank is over, we can kind of figure out where we put Andrade in the whole grand scheme of things.
Oh, yeah.
Whether he feuds with LWO. Once I saw Chad get thrown out of the ring and Jay was climbing up to go get it, I was just like, all right, cool. They might actually give it to Jay.
Right.
And then the audience started yelling, oh my gosh. I was like, let me guess. Drew's coming up. He does. Throws the briefcase and chucks in at Jay's head for him to get it. I was like, all right. And I'm not going to lie, because Drew ended up winning, this immediately told me, okay, shenanigans is about to go down in this match between Damian and
I
Seth
think
later on.
That's more of the tell that I think you're getting at, Adolfo, is once we knew the ending of this, we knew, oh, I know what's going to happen tonight. Like, that's kind of what the feeling was.
Very interesting.
I think the announcers did not help this because they kept feeding that sort of, Drew McIntyre's the one that said the Money in the Bank is the Then they just kind of fed they pushed the pedal in the wrong way, which is rough because there was some great spots in here. The yeet spot, I like it because I'm a nerd. I think that's hilarious. You're right. The Spanish fly that Carmelo took was incredible. And I think this was kind of, I don't want to say coming out because that's not what I mean, but this sort of put Andrade on the map as, oh yeah, he can hold up these matches. Do something with him somewhere. Right. And I know not everyone's sold on him. I like him a lot. Maybe I'm just spoiled. not to nitpick this apart because I know we got a lot to get to. I think Carmelo Hayes rushed a few of these spots because some of his house call, not house call, what is it called? The big jump to the thing in the thing.
So, you mean with this leg drop thing?
Yes.
The nothing but net.
Nothing but net. Excuse me. I was like, alley oop. He's on fire. Nothing but net.
Basketball terms.
He missed both of them.
He
got amazing height, and he was sky high, and then he missed it. And I was like, oh, be careful. Please don't hurt yourself. But cool spots in here for sure. Kind of put Andrade on the map. I feel bummed for LA Knight and Gable because I feel like they're kind of due something.
There were no shenanigans. Like Logan didn't come out and ruin it for LA Knight. No Wyatt 6 came out for Chad or Jay. LWO didn't come and mess with Andrade. Like it was really weird. This was like, oh, okay, so we're gonna reserve all the shenanigans for later.
Yeah.
Right. I like this match enough. This was not my favorite of the two ladder matches we got this evening. The women's is my favorite. I wish Minnie was here because he disagrees with me. He thinks the men's was better in terms of storytelling. I was like, I can see your point.
Where is he? Where is not here?
He's down and out with the sickness.
Yeah, he got the sickness. So, so men's Money in the Bank. Drew McIntyre ends up with the suitcase, which he will hold on in perpetuity. Right. Anyway. Our next match of the night was Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn, he retains his Intercontinental Championship. So I'm going to start with you now, Mikey. What were your thoughts on the match? And then can you convince me that Braun Breaker deserved this title shot? And for that second question, you have 1 minute. So give me your thoughts first. Give me your thoughts on the match first.
And then I'll time myself for the minute. Okay. Yeah. I thought this was a pretty decent match. My biggest critique, though, with this match, this felt, not to say that this shouldn't have been on the pay-per-view, but I felt that this was a pretty good match. It should have been a great match because you're on a pay-per-view. This felt like I was watching a regular championship match on Monday Night Raw, which isn't necessarily bad now because the television product the last 2 months or so has gone up and it's actually doing better. But you are at a major pay-per-view and you're having this match. I'm not saying that you need to throw all the tricks out of the bag, but it felt very paint by numbers. But the inaction was great. I need Sami Zayn to stop doing the Blue Thunder Bomb because we know it never finishes its opponent. So I was like, why do the
least entertaining move in professional wrestling?
The least devastating move.
Which also is my nitpick for the ending. I feel that a character that you've built for Braun, you want to put him down with the Blue Thunder Bomb instead of the Haluva Kick, because to me, the levels of finishers aren't the same. The Haluva Kick should be like your semi-finisher leading into the Blue Thunder Bomb to keep him down. Because Braun Breaker he got that dog in him, according to Corey Graves and Michael Cole. I hate that term. Anyways.
Okay, right, so now, Mikey.
Yep.
You have 1 minute. Go.
Braun Breaker definitely deserves this title shot in the sense that all the other participants either have not won a lot of matches or got injured. So Braun Breaker, really what this should have been is this should have been a triple threat or a fatal four-way, because involved in this storyline is Sammy, Braun, Sheamus, and Ludwig Kaiser. Sheamus has been on the losing streak because him and Drew got beef, so they might be doing something leading into that. Ludwig Kaiser could have been in this spot, and I honestly think it could have been him, but the problem is that he broke his ribs 2 weeks before this pay-per-view in the middle of the match with Braun, so therefore, by default, Braun Breaker was going to get this. However, Braun Breaker's character that has been presented on Raw, he's just destroying everybody on the roster. He took out Ilya Dragunov for a little bit. He wrote off Ricochet on television. He is the person right now for this mid-card title.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. John.
All right.
Thoughts on the match?
Okay. Thoughts on the match, and then 60 seconds on the clock. This felt like a Sami Zayn match. It didn't feel like a Braun Breaker match, if that makes sense. Sami is great at these sort of underdog, I'm getting destroyed matches, but I'm still interested. Similar to Paint by Numbers, they had the same sort of dramatic arc of exposition, rising action, climax. Well, like it was sort of like, and we're here, and I bet you this happened. That okay, this build, that build. So part of me, I think, not that Braun needs to learn any of this, but I think this was more of a, hey, Braun, can you do a match this long that has a beginning, middle, end? Like, can you hit these plot points and bullet points in a match like this? Sammy's going to teach you how to do that on the biggest stage. It's kind of how I felt. I think Mikey's kind of right. This could have been a championship on a Raw or a SmackDown, right? This didn't quite have that sort of PLE punch to it, partly because of that. And I think some of what Mikey was speaking to, they might have rushed Braun into this. Was he worthy of a title shot or not? We'll go 60 seconds on this clock.
And go.
I don't know if I could convince you otherwise. Just in the sense that Braun is fantastic. He's working really hard. He's not your normal generic wrestling character. He does need some work for sure. But I'm not sold this was the strongest spot to put him in either. And partly when we were talking tag stuff with him and Baron Corbin and some of that right when he was leaving NXT and then pushing his way over here, that sounded more interesting to me than kind of shoehorning him into an IC title thing where Sammy's kind of doing his own thing. So you kind of deflated a little of the momentum. I think long term, this is good for Braun. Okay. Short term, this kind of weighed down this part of the night.
Okay, and that's time. Thank you, Professor, for your insights. I will deliberate on this and maybe I'll make a short about my decision or whatnot. So after this match, we got an announcement. We're making an announcement. There's a bad blood PLE on October 5th in Atlanta, Georgia. Beep, bop, boop, bop, beep. Next.
I got to speak on this really quick because WWE is doing what they can, because I get the sneaky suspicion I've noticed that the last couple of promos and like things for these pay-per-views, they're heavily leading into bringing hip hop artists on to do these things. And the fact that we've got this video advertising this pay-per-view and it's Cody Rhodes, this pay-per-view is happening in his hometown in Atlanta, Georgia. So he was there, but then they got to multi-Grammy award winner producer Metro Boomin to do this spot with Cody too. I'm just like, yo, if he's gonna be playing beats during the pay-per-view, this might be the best one. But I love that WWE is bringing back all like these old school pay-per-view names for this. And honestly, Bad Blood could potentially be really good, especially if you put, feuds that need some sort of crazy stipulation where it needs to end.
So do we got to bring back like In Your House and all these other ones that we used to have?
That's the thing. NXT has kind of taken a lot of those because NXT has In Your House, No Mercy, Great American Bash is coming up. Like, it's great.
So now, and I'm gonna give each of you a minute to talk this out, but I'm throwing a wild card out here. Is WWE now going down that road of too many PLEs? Is now kind of defacing the PLE, or do they need more PLEs to get all these storylines out? I'm going to start with John. You go. You first. 60 seconds on the clock, and go.
So I'll compare this to when I used to watch a lot of UFC and MMA, various promotions, not just UFC. If you're having an event every month, you're putting a toll on those performers or those athletes. Granted, they're doing weekly shows, but they got a roster and they're sort of chaining people in and out, so it's a little different. If you're doing a PLE per month, it just comes off as a cash grab to me. And you're going to get diminishing returns. I don't think you need one every month. I do think the quarterly, seasonal, one-off stuff is better. And what do I know? I'm just a, thinky bits guy sitting here on a podcast. I think you run the risk of doing too much. Okay. This does kind of fall into that Halloween Havoc arc where we got to get ourselves from SummerSlam to Survivor Series. We got to find a thing. It makes me nervous doing so many events.
Okay. Mikey, your turn. 60 seconds on the clock, and go.
I think under normal circumstances, if WWE were to truly have a pay-per-view every month, it does run the risk, as the professor has brought up. However, I disagree. I don't think this is going to hurt WWE in the long run because of what we set up so far. We have SummerSlam coming up in a couple weeks, beginning of August. Then we make our way to Bash in Berlin at the end of August. But then the next pay-per-view scheduled for the main roster isn't until Bad Blood in October, which will then lead into Survivor Series in November. So between Bash in Berlin and Bad Blood, you literally have a month and a half or so to build up these feuds to Bad Blood, which then can culminate into one of these matches is about to end up in the cage match at Survivor Series. So I don't think it's a bad thing because once SummerSlam is over, pretty much after that in Bash in Berlin, WWE doesn't have another pay-per-view until Bad Blood in October.
Okay. Alrighty, there we go. So after this announcement, we got a big match. What I thought was the main event. Apparently it wasn't, though. We had Damian Priest versus Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. Spoilers. Drew McIntyre cashes his Money in the Bank briefcase in. So this goes from Damian So this goes from Damian Priest to Seth Rollins to a triple threat where you have Damian, Seth, and Drew McIntyre. And spoilers, CM Punk pops up. What? Right? Suffice to say, Damian does retain his heavyweight championship. However, this match had shenanigans throughout. So the first thing I'm going to ask is for each person's thoughts, and then I have a follow-up question for each of you. So Mikey, let's start with you. What were your thoughts on this match? Let's actually break it down. What were your thoughts on Damian versus Seth Rollins? And then what were your thoughts on the triple threat?
Well, to begin my thesis statement really quick, I'm going to be honest, this was not my favorite match of the evening. Like, it wasn't necessarily bad, but it's in the number 5 position if I were ranking all the matches from 1 to 5. And I think that has to do with a couple of things. I thought pre-Drew McIntyre cashing in, I thought it was a decent, okay match. Again, I echo what I said about the Sammy Braun match. This was fantastic, but you're on a pay-per-view. It felt more like a Monday Night Raw championship match. And I don't know if it's because Seth has recently had surgery on his knee, and I don't want to say it's ring rust, but Seth and Damian weren't necessarily connecting very well before Drew came out and everything. And upon a second watch through, I noticed that Seth was looking towards the ramp a lot, like the last 6-7 minutes before Drew came out. So there's that part. What I want to speak on, though, is that a lot of internet wrestling fans are flaming Damian in the comments, as internet people tend to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're putting the blame on Damian for messing it up. And I'm like, I'm gonna be honest, you guys. I think production is the blame for this. Somebody did not play the music at the right time, because when he didn't kick out and the ref stopped the count, I think that was when they were supposed to play the music, but they didn't. So then we had an extra 45 seconds until they did to find something to do. It just did not work out very well. Damian is just having a rough time. Everybody is memeing him from when he got his foot caught up in the rope at Clash of the Castle, saying that he ruined the match here by not kicking out. I'm just
that was not his fault. Sorry. That one bothers me because that's not
tag in. Yeah. Go
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, John, please. Your thoughts on.
I don't mean to jump. I'm just jumping off what Mikey said because I read that the other day and that drives me nuts. That's an accident, and they're doing hundreds of shows a year. Stuff's gonna happen, just like it happened to him here. I'm not sure what the sound cue was supposed to be. For those of you that don't know, there was kind of a botch in the count and the thing. I'm sure you've heard by now. I'm wondering if the sound cue was kick out sound instead of sound kick out, and something in there was not quite right. Damian felt awful, and he was deflated the whole
he looked
last
pissed
25
when
seconds of this.
Yeah,
was
he looked
mad at
pissed when
himself
he
for
was walking
sure.
up the ramp.
And you could see him when they give him, he says it into the, he just looks at the guy and goes, oh my, I can't effing believe it. Oh my, fuck. Like he's mad at himself. I think you're right about the match. They were very, very calculated. And this is something that's been happening with a lot of main events recently in WWE, particularly since January. It's very, very scripted. Not that it wasn't scripted, but it's very like we know everything leading up to it. And there were some moments here where I think they either got ahead or they wasn't quite right or they weren't sure where they were. Seth doing that almost powerbomb, holding Damian Priest from one end to the other. It's like, wow, his knee must be feeling great. That's a 300-pound, 6'8" guy you just did that to, Seth Rollins. So I agree, though. This did feel like a Monday Night Raw or SmackDown match before we got into the shenanigans of the thing. We knew it was coming. We didn't know how it was going to be showing up.
All right. So now this segues to my final question for this match, and that is CM Punk. So for anyone that didn't hear, CM Punk, he did come out. He did cause interference with Drew McIntyre, causing Drew to lose his Money in the Bank cash in. But gentlemen, CM Punk, is it time for him to actually get back in the ring, or do we just keep having him like do these pop up like circa late 90s Sting in the rafters things? John, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Let's try to keep this to a minute.
I'll keep it tight. Yeah, I agree with the chat. Thank you, Andrew. Seth Rollins was absolutely robbed. I think there was a fantastic chance to pivot here with the pin not happening and just be like, hey, flip it around, give it to Seth. Let's do something different. But they're not going to do that. I do think CM Punk, whatever the status of his injury is, whenever he's back to 100% or whatever he wants, if he's just going to do the I'm a punk, I'm going to needle you thing for a while, he might be the only wrestler in the industry that could get away with that for a substantial amount of time and just destroy Drew at every step. And Drew's just the angry cartoon character and like can never catch him. It would be nice to eventually see this come to some sort of culmination. I don't know when, where that's going to be. I knew CM Punk would show up. I didn't know how. I liked this. What, in my opinion, I think this set up the post better than it set up Damian Priest winning again.
Got it.
Because what happened at the end and after and leading after
Crazy.
was actually pretty cool.
Yep. Mikey, your thoughts? CM Punk, is it time for him to come back into the ring, or do we want to keep having him play whack-a-mole with Drew McIntyre? 60 seconds and go.
I agree with the professor. It depends on the status of Punk's injury post the Royal Rumble, because that's where he did get injured when he was in the Royal Rumble. So technically he's been in the match, but then he got hurt. I was like, well, there goes those plans. My biggest concern is because what got set up in the post show where Drew McIntyre had a full tirade on camera on the post show with Big E and the rest of the hosts, elbowed Scrap Daddy Adam Pearce, and then got suspended and fined twice within the last 24 hours, which is nuts. I'm concerned of two things. One, obviously now it's Damian versus Gunther at SummerSlam, so we're building towards that program. But Punk has two targets on his back from two different people. Him and Drew have been going back and forth. But now he also kind of got Seth Rollins on his radar because Seth was pissed at the end of this match because of CM Punk. The stipulation was if Seth walked out the loser of this match, he can't challenge Damian for that title so long as Damian holds that championship. So Seth can't be the main champion, and it's because, once again, Punk screwed him over. And as we all know, there is some real beef between Seth Rollins and CM Punk. So now I'm worried that WWE just created two bad guys for the price of one. And I don't know if we're going to get Seth versus Punk, Drew versus Punk, a mixture of both of them in a triple threat. Like, I don't know what happens with all of this, but I'm thinking we're building towards something in SummerSlam. I just don't know what it is. And I'm afraid WWE doesn't know what that is either right now.
All right. I'm gonna give you guys a really quick bonus question, and all we need is either yes or no, and that's it. And that is because of what happened, because Drew McIntyre did cash the Money in the Bank in, and it did turn from Seth Rollins, Damian Priest to a triple threat match, and we didn't actually get the a finality for Damian versus Seth. Does it get does that stipulation that he can't challenge again, does that get overturned later on? Just yes or no, John?
Yes is more interesting.
Mikey? Just yes or no?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, there we go. So chew on that in the mind space for a little bit. Moving on. Next, we have the women's Money in the Bank, where we saw Io Sky, Lyra Valkyria, Zoe Stark, Chelsea Green, Naomi, and Tiffany Stratton vying for that briefcase, that hanging briefcase. Always vying for that hanging briefcase. Tiffany Stratton did come out, your Money in the Bank women's winner. So again, I'm going to ask y'all's thoughts, and after that, I have a follow-up question. So let's start with Mikey. What were your thoughts on the Woman in the Bank title match?
Oh, hands down, for me personally, this was the best match of the entire night. I echo what I said at the beginning for the men's, where they got all their stuff in the first 75% of the match. These women spaced it out the entirety of the match. Everyone got to do something, and it was completely different. My MVPs of this match is Io Sky, because she did a lot in this match. She did the crazy high flying spots. I thought she murdered Zoe Stark with that DDT off the top of the ladder onto the ladder below. Zoe sold that beautifully, by the way, which was fantastic. Naomi doing her Naomi spots where she does the split on the two ladders, and then she proceeds to beat people up. Lyra Valkyria delivering DDTs like nobody's business throughout the match. Tiffany Stratton taking people out with the prettiest moonsault. But of course, my favorite spot of the whole entire match has to go to Chelsea Green taking it like a champ. Tiffany pushes her off the top of the ladder and goes back and head first into the tables below. I was like, Matt Cardona must be proud, the king of deathmatch, her husband. Yeah. This was a fantastic match, and I'm so happy because now, like we said on SmackDown, with Tiffany being the Money in the Bank winner and Bayley having to fight Nia at SummerSlam, it brings an interesting dichotomy because Tiffany and Nia are like besties right now on screen. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic with those three, but by far the best match of the night. All the women delivered. And I'm just saying, and Minnie also disagrees with the statement that somebody posted, but I don't care. He's not here. I think the women in 2024 have been killing the gimmick matches from the Royal Rumble. The Women's Royal Rumble was the best. The Women's Elimination Chamber this year was the best between the two. And for me personally, the Money in the Bank was the best between the two. So I'm just saying the women are killing it out here.
All right. John, your thoughts on the match?
I absolutely agree with 90% of what Mikey said. I think that we talk about this here all the time. Like, the women have to work twice as hard, be twice as good just to get any sort of recognition. And they show it with these gimmick matches and other things. I was kind of pulling for Chelsea Green by the end.
Low key, me too. I was like, go Chelsea, go.
I would have been happy to be wrong and just laugh. She sold all the funny spots and being scared of heights and going on the table and all the other things. She was kind of my MVP because she held up a lot of stuff along with Io Sky for a lot of these spots. You mentioned all the spots that stand out. The first, I think, 5 minutes or so, there was a little bit of like, okay, so wait, there was
a little bit of hesitation. Yeah.
Kind of I'm going to do this. So I'm just going to do something. Then they got their groove. Then they figured out where they were going and they just started working and did really well. I don't think anyone came off weak. Everyone looked super strong by the end. The only tell, and this might just be me as a theater person, Tiffany walks out, beautiful green two-piece, and I was like, oh, you're winning. You're the only one wearing green. And it kind of happened that way. I don't know if that's me as costume designer, but I was like, hang on a minute.
Right?
You might have played your super fun. The women are killing it. And this is what, the 4th year in a row where the women's Money in the Bank is just better than the men's?
Well, I would say of the 4 years that we've had this, or the 5 years or whatever, 4 out of 5 of them have been great. I will admit that the women's Money in the Bank 2 years ago was not great, because that was the year that Raquel couldn't find her groove when she was throwing the ladder around.
Oh, that's right.
When Shotzi butted herself wide open,
Right.
like twice, and almost concussed herself. Becky Lynch had to carry everybody.
That's fair.
All right, gentlemen. So with this, with Tiffany Stratton coming up, your Women's in the Bank, your Money in the Bank winner, I have to ask, and this is a 2-part question: who is Tiffany going to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase on? And your personal opinion, who should she cash it in on? I'm gonna start with you, John.
I don't know, just because I think they should let this run a while, because Tiffany is so good with the promos and the backstage and the film, whatever. You can do anything you want with her and Nia, as long as she has the Money in the Bank thing. I don't think she's going to hold it quite as long as Damien did. She's going to hold it for a while. And I'll make this prediction. I don't think she's cashing it in on anyone who is currently the title holder. I don't think it's Bayley. I think it's going to come 1 or 2 after.
Okay. Mikey.
So I hate to be the fun police and ruins people's fun, but Triple H did say, just like the same rules that were applied to King and Queen of the Ring apply to Money in the Bank. Whoever wins this briefcase can cash it in for a championship match against any champion on their brand. So, because Tiffany is on SmackDown, that means that she is going to cash in on the women's title on SmackDown. She's not going to cash it in on Bayley. That's not definitely going to happen. I don't know if Nia will beat her at SummerSlam. We'll see. But it may not even be for the main women's title, because rumors are that Raw and SmackDown are working on the women's mid-card belt. So if that comes to fruition within the next couple of months, I can also see Tiffany cashing in to become, the women's mid-card champ too. But Tiffany's holding on to this. I say she's holding on to this until maybe Survivor Series.
Okay. There we go. And gentlemen, this finally brings us to our main event, where we had Kevin Owen, Randy Orton, and Cody Rhodes versus the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, and Tama Tonga. Are we calling them? Are they officially the Bloodline 2.0? Is that like the official WWE speak? Or are they just
they're just calling them the Bloodline.
Okay. To which we got the Bloodline winning. Again, I'm going to ask for y'all's thoughts, and then I have a follow-up question after that. So we are going to start with Mikey. What were your thoughts on this match?
So this was our main event, and I have a lot of feelings about this. So I think let's start with the positives. I think the positives for this match, Jacob Fatu was definitely MVP for me this match. This was a great showing of Jacob Fatu, especially for those who aren't familiar with his work on the independent scene. Shout out to Andrew, because Andrew is very well versed in the Jacob of Fatus and his brother Zilla Fatu as well. So
see you soon.
Maybe we'll see with all that, with the tweet that happened that got everybody talking.
Yep.
I will also say Kevin Owens was MVP for his team too, because again, he's just a fireball of energy, just bringing it out. And once he brought in Cody Rhodes, and then everybody started working in tandem, is when the match picked up itself. My critiques for this match: I feel that the pacing kind of got wonky towards the middle of it, especially when Cody started getting walloped on as like the person be like, hey, I need to tag somebody out. And he ended up being the person getting the beat down towards the middle and the end portion of the match. I forgot Randy was in this match. I'm not going to lie, you guys. Because Randy was in and out quickly as that. Also, the cameraman caught the failed low blow attempt. I was just like, that took me out of it so bad. I was like, dang, you had one job. I was like, it was now I agree with the minority of fans. I agree that the Bloodline winning was the right call, because this is going to set up Solo taking on Cody at SummerSlam, in which we get a returning Roman Reigns, I think, at SummerSlam. But that is my critiques. Jacob and Kevin were great in the match. The pacing was a little bit wonky from the middle to the end. And then once all hell broke loose, everyone kind of got over enthused, and it kind of got messy towards the end.
Okay. John, your thoughts on the match?
Jumping off what you said, I absolutely agree that the Bloodline should have and needed to win this. They had all the momentum. They got Fatu in here now. Coming off the Paul Heyman incident, like, that's where we're going. You have to give them all the heat. Play the card now. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Who's going to stop them? Who's going to stop them? You can't even get team 1/3 Canada, 2/3 America to stop it. Like, you can't. So I think they're going to clean house for a while until we get what actual civil war, whatever we need from that. Match itself, like Mikey said, was solid. We're basically in Wolfpack land, as Andrew said. I feel bad for Tongaloa, because he's sort of 2 for 2 on these spots and the internet's crushing him. This isn't quite as bad as Chyna hitting Mick Foley and her hand disappearing into his rear end, if you know the story of that miscalculated Lobo way back in the day.
Yeah, I remember that.
You see, there was a cage and she was trying to, so she gave him an exam instead. So I didn't hate that. I kind of chuckled, like, oh man, this poor guy. But from the other camera angle, it's one shot and they got what they needed and whatever else. But I hope he gets out of his head, because these are starting to pile up. Kevin Owens was hitting them hard. He slapped Solo so hard it looked like it hurt his hand. And then Solo kind of, did some more professional glancing blows and headbutts. And then Kevin Owens just stands up and tags him again. Like, oh my God. So this was hard hitting. Something that drives me nuts, and I think Kevin Owens miscalculated this just enough. This is just me, a nitpicky thing. Randy Owens is what, 6'5"?
Yeah.
All he has to do is lean an inch more forward, and there's your hot tag. They're trying to sell that distance so hard.
Yep.
It's they had miscalculated that a little bit. So that I'm suspension of disbelief. I'll give you that. But this match is what it needed to be. This felt like a PLE match. This is something I would tune in to see on a PLE. Bloodline should have won, and they did.
All right, there we go. All right, so this is the final thought. I'm going to regulate it to a minute each. Does this signal the return of a face, Roman Reigns? Starting with you, Mikey. 60 seconds on the clock, and go.
Oh, absolutely. If not a Roman Reigns, this is, I think, where we get the return of Jimmy Uso to cost Solo Sikoa the chance to beat Cody and the rest of the Bloodline. I would love to see Roman come back at SummerSlam. And obviously, we all know, and if it doesn't happen, I'm gonna riot, because I'll be like, it's perfect writing on the wall. Roman's either returning at SummerSlam or a little bit after that, because we gotta be building towards the Civil War happening at Survivor Series. But somewhere along the way, Solo and Roman are gonna fight for head of the table, true head of the table, and then we'll see from there. But I see Jimmy returning before Roman, but I don't count Roman returning at SummerSlam either. So,
all right, John, question to you. 60 seconds, go.
I kind of see the inverse. I see Roman coming back and then having to do the work to bring back the bloodline that he has excommunicated. So I don't think we see Jimmy come back until Roman has to go find him. And I don't think they're going to go full penance and make Roman like, hey, I'm sorry, I was a horrible person. I've done some soul searching. They might even play the, hey, since my father died thing, I've had to think about it. I wouldn't put that past. It could be Survivor Series. They could let this run even longer. I'm wondering if they're going to do it, and part of me loves it, part of me hates it, if it's going to be The Rock, Jimmy J, and Roman versus this other bloodline, or if they're just going to go and get, I don't know, 30 other cousins and do this in some open field and just make this madness, because that would be a real tribal council.
That would work.
Like go
bring in all the old timers as well.
Go down to Hawaii, get on a beach, get 40 of them, light some torches.
This is how we bring beach brawl back.
Let's go bash at the beach and someone's drowning someone in the ocean. Someone gets thrown into a volcano.
Love it.
Let's go there.
All righty. So that, believe it or not, brings us to the end of the Money in the Bank review. So now we're going to send it to Mikey. Mikey, so to fill in our beautiful internet audience, we are doing a Bi-Conics podcast challenge where we're accumulating the winners of predictions for the pay-per-views. We have a WWE side and an AEW side and what have you. But apparently the winner is actually going to get a belt and is going to hold on to that belt for a little bit. So Mikey, go ahead. Who are the prediction winners for this PLE?
Alrighty, so so what we're going to do is we're going to show this. So the participants in this WWE league are the WWE boys. So anyone who reviews the WWE product is in this league. So that is myself, John the Professor, and Minnie, who is not here. But I have calculated the results for Money in the Bank as well as cumulative. So let's put this on the screen and see how that goes. So here are this is where we currently stand in the WWE Predictions League. For Money in the Bank, the winner is the Professor, who had a record of 4-1, and me and Minnie tied in second with a record of 3-2 for Money in the Bank. And then looking at the cumulative score, tied for first place is Minnie and Professor with a cumulative of 11-4. So this is including Backlash. It is including Backlash, Clash at the Castle, and Money in the Bank. And then not too far behind, but in second place is myself with a cumulative of 10-5. Clash at the Castle really screwed me over, but Minnie and Professor are currently holding on to the lead in the WWE Predictions League. So congratulations to both of those men. But Professor wins for the first time in what it feels like ever.
Yay!
Professor won Money in the Bank.
The champions, my friend.
And then I can go join
Gatorade.
Go join the What Culture League and get smoked by those guys.
You're right. All right. So now that we have our prediction winners out of the way, that brings us to the end of this live stream and our Money in the Bank show. Mikey, do you have any parting thoughts about this PLE? Again, let's keep it down to a minute. Go ahead.
So to give a final empanada rating, I think
no empanada ratings. I'm going against the grain here. Your final thoughts. Don't even worry about the empanadas.
No, I'm the boss. I override you. We have to give a rating to this.
Oh, okay. Oh, we got a badass.
Nah, we have to be consistent. I'm gonna keep it
go
short.
Ahead, give your empanadas. Go ahead.
I enjoyed Money in the Bank for what it was, but like I echoed off camera, I don't think it was a good idea for me to watch this and then NXT Heatwave the following night, because Heatwave performance-wise kind of blew everything out of the water for me. But I give Money in the Bank a solid 6.5 empanadas out of 10. I thought this was a fun show. I'm just worried of how we build the card to SummerSlam, but I still had a good time. But some matches were good, but didn't feel like they belonged on a pay-per-view. They felt more like a Monday Night Raw or SmackDown match. But 6.5, I still enjoyed myself.
Again, how can you leave half the empanada on the plate? Yo.
Adolfo is shaving my Puerto Rican-ness. I feel very attacked.
I think that's the feeling. Is sort of like I'm going to leave half of this here. I don't even want the other. Like that's how good it was.
I feel very attacked. Professor, what do you say?
I agree. I think it's in 6.5, 7 land. My final thoughts, Jerry Springer style. If you're gonna do too much, do it well. You gotta be sharp. Toronto wanted it. Toronto got most of what they wanted. I think when you look at the entire weekend, yes, if you were a Toronto fan, you got what you wanted. If you were here for Money in the Bank, You started out a little slow. You got a little confused by the end. Your closing matches, fantastic. Were absolutely what you needed. So I don't know where we're gonna go. This is the same as Clash of the Castle. Clash of the Castle.
Have another sip.
Sean Connery couldn't say it either. Clash of the Castle.
Anyway, go ahead. Come on.
Yeah, I solid. Would I watch it again? No. Will I remember it? Yeah. For the right reasons? No.
All right, there we go. So that's it. Thank you for joining us for this, our Money in the Bank review. I am Adolfo the Nerdy Puerto Rican. For Mikey, for John, remember that you're Bi-Conic, we're Bi-Conic, we are all Bi-Conic, and we love you all. Thank you for joining, and we'll talk to you later. Blaze Dark Satro.